This is not my own story. This is the story of a friend, someone I met on a trip who hosted me because my friend asked him to. At that time, I asked for advice to go solo camping to the Appalachian forest. I was very sure of my determination. But it didn't last long. My determination wavered as if I became a coward after hearing the story he told me. The Appalachian forest stretched endlessly before him, a vast and ancient wilderness untouched by time. Towering trees loomed overhead, their thick canopies casting long shadows as the golden afternoon sun began to fade. The man adjusted his backpack, feeling the reassuring weight of his supplies as he followed the narrow dirt trail deeper into the woods. He had come here for solitude, to escape the chaos of everyday life, to breathe in the crisp mountain air and lose himself in the quiet embrace of nature. The forest was alive with the sounds of chirping birds and the distant rustle of unseen animals moving through the underbrush. It was peaceful, exactly what he had hoped for. But as the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, a strange, unshakable feeling settled in his chest, as if something in the forest was aware of him. As dusk settled, the man reached a small clearing beside a trickling creek, deciding it was the perfect place to set up camp. He pitched his tent beneath a towering oak, its gnarled roots twisting through the earth like ancient veins. The fire crackled to life, casting flickering shadows against the trees as he ate a simple meal, listening to the rhythmic hum of the forest. The air smelled of damp leaves and pine, a scent both calming and familiar. Yet, beneath the natural serenity, there was something else, a strange stillness that hadn't been there before. The usual nighttime chorus of insects and frogs had faded, leaving behind a silence that felt deliberate, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. He tried to ignore the silence, convincing himself it was nothing more than his mind playing tricks on him. He leaned back against a fallen log, letting the warmth of the fire seep into his skin as he stared up at the sky. Through the gaps in the dense canopy, the stars blinked down at him, cold and distant. He had camped alone before, but something about this night felt different. Too quiet, too still. The trees stood like dark sentinels around him, their massive trunks disappearing into the shadows. As he reached for his water bottle, a deep, resonant thud echoed from the distance. It wasn't the sharp crack of a branch breaking or the scuttle of an animal. It was heavy, deliberate, like something large had struck the forest floor. He sat up, his body tensing as he listened. The sound had come from deep within the trees, somewhere beyond the creek. He waited, ears straining, but the forest remained deathly still. No wind, no insects, nothing. Just as he started to convince himself it had been a falling branch or a distant rock slide, the noise came again. Another heavy thud, closer this time. His fingers tightened around the handle of his knife, a useless comfort against whatever was out there. He aimed his flashlight toward the trees, the beam slicing through the darkness. The undergrowth stood untouched, motionless, but something about the way the shadows shifted between the trees made his skin crawl. He wasn't alone. A cold sweat clung to his skin as he backed toward the fire, the only thing separating him from the suffocating darkness of the Appalachian wilderness. His mind raced through possibilities, a bear, a mountain lion, even another person, but none of them explained the unnatural weight of those sounds. Then, without warning, a low, vibrating hum filled the air. It wasn't coming from the trees, nor from any direction he could pinpoint. It was everywhere, surrounding him, inside him. The sensation wasn't just sound, it was a pressure, a presence, crawling through his bones and tightening around his chest like unseen hands. His breath hitched. The forest was no longer just watching him, it was closing in. Then came the noise, not the thudding, not the hum, but something else entirely. It was guttural, wet, and wrong, a sound that did not belong to any living thing he had ever heard. It echoed from the trees, warping as if the forest itself was twisting it, reshaping it into something almost familiar, but not quite. His stomach turned at the unnatural cadence, like a voice trying to form words but failing. The firelight flickered, casting erratic shadows that seemed to shift on their own, stretching and bending in ways that didn't make sense. He took a shaky step back, his body screaming at him to run, but he knew, Whatever was out there wanted him to panic. It was waiting for it. His instincts finally took over. He turned and lunged for his tent, diving inside and yanking the zipper shut in one frantic motion, as if that thin layer of fabric could protect him. His chest rose and fell in shallow, panicked breaths as he gripped his knife with white-knuckled fingers. Outside, the forest remained silent, too silent. Then, without warning, the loudest thud yet struck just outside the tent. The ground shook. The air vibrated. He squeezed his eyes shut, his entire body rigid as a new noise slithered through the night. A slow, deliberate exhale, just beyond the thin nylon wall. His entire body locked up, every instinct screaming at him to stay silent. Something was standing right outside the tent. The air inside felt thin, suffocating, as if whatever was out there was pulling the space around it inward. Then, just as suddenly as it had come, the presence shifted. Not footsteps, not a movement, just gone. The humming ceased. The weight pressing on his chest vanished. But before he could even process what was happening, a wave of exhaustion crashed over him. His grip on the knife loosened, his mind clouded, and against all reason, against every primal fear in his body, he blacked out. He woke with a start, gasping for air as if he had been drowning in his own dreams. The tent was eerily still, untouched. His knife lay beside him, his fingers numb from the cold. He scrambled for his phone, but the screen remained black, completely drained, though he had charged it fully the night before. The fire, which should have lasted hours longer, was nothing but cold ash. He stepped outside, heart pounding, scanning the trees. Nothing was disturbed. The food on the table sat untouched, the ground unmarked, as if nothing had ever been there. But deep in his gut, he knew. Something had been watching him. Something had stood just beyond the firelight, waiting. Without hesitation, he packed up and left, never once looking back at the silent, endless expanse of the Appalachian forest.